Foxes, and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am Brittany from SHOPFOXBURROW. I am SHOPFOXBURROW on Poshmark, Instagram, and Etsy. And today I'm going to be talking to you about some things that you should be keeping in mind, or tips from a sort of like intermediate reseller. So someone who's past beginner and more towards the middle to late, like advanced period. This video was brought up because I was recently looking for Depop tips for, starting a Depop and being successful on Depop. And a lot of what I came across was just really basic stuff that every reseller is going to already know if they've resold on another platform. So while it might be helpful for someone just, looking to move some stuff out of their closet, or like just getting into reselling, for someone who is established and has sold on multiple platforms before, it's not especially helpful. So I was kind of inspired to create this video with 5 tips that I have learned after selling over $50,000 worth of stuff on Poshmark, and that is net sales, so like deposited money, not gross sales. But I hit that number a little while ago, a few months back. I'm almost at 60,000 now, and I didn't really want to talk about it or shout about it because everybody is in a different place in their reselling journey. But again, a lot of the videos that I watched on Depop, these were sellers giving advice who had made maybe $400, $500. So I think that it's just really important as a factor of, yes, I know what I'm doing. Yes, as an intermediate reseller, I feel like I can offer you some tips that might be helpful as you start to move towards being a little bit more advanced and taking a more like business mentality with your, Poshmark or Etsy or Depop or eBay or wherever you like to sell. So with all that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get started and jump right on into tip number 1. So tip number 1, and this might seem basic, but it's actually not, is that consistency is key. So a lot of people will go on spurts and they'll just list everything all at once, where it's really better for all platforms if you're listing consistently every single day. I've seen it on Poshmark, I've seen it on eBay, I've seen it on Etsy, and I've even watched a couple of videos where consistency was key on Depop. So what these platforms really want to see is you listing regularly every single day. When I was first amping up my Poshmark closet, I was listing about 5 items a day, and that resulted in about 1, maybe 2 sales per day. And then when I really wanted to kick my Poshmark into high gear, when I hired an employee last year in September, I was listing 15 items a day, and at 15 items a day, I was selling between 3 to 5 items a day. And that's after about a month of doing that consistently. So if you list 5 items a day consistently for a month, you should see at least 1 sale per day, probably 2, possibly 3. If you're listing 15 items a day, you're gonna see more like 3 to 5 sales every single day. And then some days you're gonna have days where you send offers, or days where people just got a paycheck, and you're gonna do really well, and you're gonna sell like 13 or 15 items a day. And so your inventory does keep going up and you have more on hand, but you do have days where you sell more. It's just that when I was listing 15 items a day, I never had a day where I sold nothing. So that's a really key thing that a lot of resellers are trying to achieve, is to not have no sales days. And 15 items to 20 items a day, which was where I found like my sweet, I'm making really good money spot. When I was listing 15 items a day, I sold about $4,000 gross sales on Poshmark. So that's just on Poshmark. That didn't include like my Etsy sales or if I listed anything on eBay. If you are cross-posting, you can honestly expect your sales to be a bit higher. The next thing is to not price yourself out of a sale. So don't price at the top end of a tier. There's a very real temptation when it comes to looking up comps on different platforms to really price at the top of the line. So you go and you have this top that you think is really great and you look it up and comps are somewhere around, I don't know, $10 at the lowest to $70 at the highest. And so you decide, well, I'm going to list that top at $70 and take offers. But what you really have got to do is to check the sold listings and then price somewhere in between. Don't make it so that you're not making money and you can't take offers, but don't make it that you price so high that somebody scrolls right past your listing because they're like, that's a ridiculous price for this. So tip number 2 is don't price yourself out of a sale. Tip number 3 is that it's not just the quality of your item, it's also the quality of your listing. So what you want to do online is to create buyer confidence. And you might have, let's just say, a Lululemon jacket that, you know, regularly sells for $150. And you go to list it and it's just not selling, or you're getting lower offers. And some things that you have to take into account are, what does your listing look like? Are your photos nice and clear? Are you modeling the item, or do you have it on a dress form, or is it just on a flat lay? Or do you have a modeled picture? Have you taken lots of different photos of lots of different small parts and details of the piece, as well as overall pieces that are not cropped or cut off in any way so the buyer can see the whole item? And do you have measurements? Is your listing good? Are you descriptive about what the style features of the item are? Your keywords? Are you descriptive about what the condition of the item is? And do you inspire confidence in your buyer that I'm going to get this item, it's going to be in the condition described, and it's probably going to ship really quickly, and I'm going to have it in hand very soon. Those are things that make you get more money for an item. And I've seen it time and time again with my listings where I will have the same thing as everyone else and I will price it a little bit higher. Maybe it's a Anthropologie top and there's a couple of them listed at $15 and I priced mine at $29. And somebody comes and offers me $23 for the same blouse that's available for $15 in the same size, just because they like the clarity of my listing, it caught their eye, and they're confident that what they see is what they get from me. So tip number 3, it's not just the quality of your item, it's also the quality of your listing. Tip number 4 is to hone your listing process to a refined edge. Get as fast as you can at listing, and that frees you up to do more and to post more and to source more and to do more of all these things without working a 70-hour work week. Because let's all admit that being a reseller, it's hard to step away and take a step back and say, you know what, I've done enough for today. I'm gonna have some personal time, or, you know, I need to clean my house, or whatever else. There's a very real temptation to, because work is at home, you just keep working, keep working, keep working. By refining your listing process to a system that you stick to and you're consistent with, you will be able to post more and in turn make more money. Now, the ideal time is going to be between 6 minutes and 10 minutes. I would say that 10 minutes is a great time to shoot for if you are just getting started with your listing process. 6 minutes is going to be a very experienced, expert, intermediate reseller. So it's going to be someone who knows what they're doing and has a system down. 6 minutes is what you aim for. Now, what am I talking about being included in that time? That includes steaming. It includes taking your pictures. It includes measuring your item. It includes bagging up and inventorying your item or however you store your items, and it includes listing your items. So to get it down to 6 to 10 minutes a piece may seem really daunting, but if you put a system in place, it's actually not that bad. For me, steaming an item takes probably 45 seconds, and then my photos take about 2.5 minutes. My measurements take 1.5 minutes, and that includes inventorying and getting it into a bag and putting it away in my system. And then listing takes 3 minutes. So altogether, that's somewhere close to 7 minutes if I have to steam an item and if I don't model the item. Modeling does take me a bit longer, but it's sort of a labor of love, something that I really enjoy doing. So I just give myself a pass for those pieces. If you are curious how I get my inventory and photography down to such a fine science, I do have a video on how I inventory, and I have a video on how I model. So I will link those down in the comments below, and they're worth watching if you want to try and speed up your process. One of my jobs in, my past retail experience was to create systems for my company that basically helped employees get through different tasks as quickly and efficiently as possible. So when I carried this over to my business, when I ventured off on my own, I really tried to look at the sort of streamlined way to do things, the fastest way that I could get stuff done. And I ended up cutting out a couple of measurements that I was doing that nobody really needed, like sleeve and seam. I cut that out of my listings over a year ago, and I've never had a single person ask me for it. So that's a lot of time that I have saved by not doing that. So I would just take a look at, what you are doing and see if you can fine tune it to make things a little bit faster. So my last tip is actually just to know your numbers. I see so many resellers just sort of flying by the seat of their pants, listing stuff, and maybe they know on an individual level how much each item is making or how much they paid for it, if they have, a spreadsheet where they keep track of that. But what I'm talking about really is the overall picture of your numbers. Instead of looking at your closet or your Etsy shop as an itemized inventory where you paid $10 for this top, so you need to make $40 on it or whatever. Look at the overall picture of your business and think about all of the tasks that you do that are unpaid but add into your work time. So you've got stuff like shipping, social media, sourcing, steaming, cleaning, inventorying, all these things that don't directly make you money, but they need to be done to make sure that your business can actually run. So one thing I like to do is to decide on an amount of money to be paid hourly. So let's say that my goal is a very modest $20 an hour. And so I need to take all of the time that I'm spending into account for my reselling business, and I need to decide what minimum profit per item I can have to meet my hourly wage goals. I am not going to be over here working for $10 an hour. Yes, it is nice to be able to work from home. Yes, it gives me the flexibility to stay home with my children. But working for $10 an hour just isn't going to cut it for me. So if I need to fine tune the items that I'm picking up and pick up things that are going to make me more money per sale, or if I need to just power through more listings, or if I ultimately just need to get smarter about how I'm spending my time, I take all of that into account because I know how much I would like to be paid. I think that it is essential to value your own work and to not work for pennies. Let's just use that $20 an hour example. If I work 45 hours a week, then I need to be bringing home $900 net per week. That would be after all of my fees, my cost of goods. So most likely I would need to be selling somewhere around $1,200 a week to be making $20 an hour. Now you can make as much per hour as you would like to, But all I'm asking you to do is to be cognizant of the time to dollar ratio in the same way that a company would be if they were paying you an hourly wage. Okay, so that wraps up my 5 tips, and I hope that they were helpful for you. If I could give just one wrap-up tip for someone who is looking to take their business from beginner to intermediate, it would be to stop looking at your business as a hobby and to start looking at it as an actual business. And keep on top of your numbers and just know what you're doing and fine-tune your process in the same way that if you had a boss looking over you or you needed to train somebody to do what you're doing, that you would have a process for them to go through and you would be able to explain it to them. So let me know down in the comments below what your favorite tip was. If you learned anything, I do try and make this channel informative. I try and put out videos that help you be a better reseller, that help me be a better reseller. So just leave me a comment down below if you have any questions or if you have any comments, and I read every single one. I put out videos every Tuesday and Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard, and I hope that I will see you on Tuesday.